Hey everyone, this is Camber Parker here with the Yo Pro No. Thanks for joining us for one of our first video interviews where we sit down every week with a different young professional to share their story and how their industry is being impacted right now by the current crisis. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you all to Kayling Neo, a friend of mine. We go way back, and I'm excited to have her share a little bit more about her career trajectory and path. She's currently the regional territory manager for an engineering company that we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to pass it over to Kaylin. Can you just talk a little bit about your background for us, and then we'll dive more into the details?
Sure. Thanks for having me, first of all. I have a degree in chemical engineering from Case Western Reserve University. That's in Ohio, but we live in Greenville, South Carolina, so a little ways from home. I decided to branch off into the engineering sales or technical sales role of engineering, and that kind of allows me to combine personal skills, business management, business strategy, along with the engineering curriculum that I already had as a background. So I've been enjoying it. I do have an at-home office, and I would say 80% of my job is travel-based. So if you're looking into consulting or you're looking to get out of the house, technical sales is definitely a good role to look into. Um, what else? I also own two homes, one in South Carolina and one in Ohio, and I manage both of those. And then I think, prepping for this interview, it was a really good time for me to quickly reflect on, who am I? How do I contribute as a young professional? And I think a big part of me is I'm always looking to help, and I'm always looking for ways to make money. I mean, they're not mutually exclusive, but they're both two hobbies that I'm really passionate about. So this time has really been impactful in evaluating both how to help, how to make money, how to manage our daily lives versus our financial statuses. And it's been really eye-opening. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, I'm glad you're bringing that up because that's something, one, that a lot of people don't reflect on. What am I contributing? And two, one of the questions I ask people typically when I interview them in the written blog that we have for at YoPro No, is what drives you and what motivates you. And a lot of times people aren't super honest about it. And what you just said is an answer that I would say a lot of young professionals would probably not admit to or wouldn't want to share, but making money is how you live, you know what I
How
mean?
we survive,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think it's very important that you brought that up, so thank you. What are some ways that you do try to help? You said that you want to help, and I know I'm throwing you a curveball here, but what are some of those ways?
That's a really good question. I could think of, the really generic ones that people have probably already been seeing on Instagram and online, like just sheer donating money, buying gift cards, ordering takeout, things like that. But, not all of us are lucky enough to have that extra spending power. So I found some good tips on how to help without spending money. One that's a little bit more personal is donating blood. They're seeing a huge shortage in blood donations across the country, and that impacts a lot of lives outside of COVID-19 issues. Another really great one I found was taking the time to go on Yelp or Google Maps and writing reviews for some of the small businesses, the restaurants that you like, and that just yeah, it's just such a upper. There's no harm, and I feel like we can be there for the community without giving them our money.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Thanks for sharing. Switching gears a little bit, how is your specific field being impacted right now, currently, given the current crisis?
Yeah, that is a tricky question if I'm to look at manufacturing and engineering as a whole. And I can't say I'm an expert, but in terms of American manufacturing, I would say there's been a huge dip in production, a huge dip in new sale orders, and that's really impacted our economy. It seems like the ones that are really thriving are going to be ones that specialize in sanitation efforts in home essential products, like P&G and big chemical companies. But I think the supply and demand issue that we're seeing is unlike any other time, that economists, politicians, and engineers can really learn from in the future. Like, we have a demand problem because people are afraid, people don't have the spending power, or people just can't get access to these products. And then we have a supply issue with, just not having enough coming through the supply chain pipeline from other countries, from our country itself, or lack of labor. And it's just, there's so many different variables that I can't imagine we're not going to have 30,000 history books and econ books that come out of this. Yeah, but even my company being, I think it's a $14 billion company, it's a Fortune 500, big scale company, we saw salary percent cuts at my level, at the executive level. And that's just been a really eye-opening experience for myself and other people in my industry. And I feel grateful enough that I don't have dependents. I don't have 4 people's mouths to feed. I don't have, 3 car loans going at the same time. And so again, like, as a young professional, we have a better situation, respectively than some others.
Yeah, very good point. You mentioned earlier you own 2 homes. Have you been impacted in that regard with all of this?
Personally, no. My parents own a good amount of, homes up where they live, and they've seen a lot of people struggling to pay rent, which sounds, I don't want to say normal, but it sounds like it would happen. But we've seen a lot of crooks and people try to swindle us as homeowners, as landlords. Someone tried to steal one of the homes by forging a title transfer, and again, it's just desperate times. And personally, I have not, but I could see where people aren't making ends meet in general.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think your point too about being in this stage of life where we don't have mouths to feed, most of us, if you're looking at the earlier side of the young professional spectrum. So in a way, I feel like we're really lucky. And it's going to be really crucial moving forward how we adjust to this. And so I know I asked you we've already touched a little bit on some tips that young professionals can take away from this crisis. Is there anything else that you feel like we haven't covered that you'd like to share just based on your own experience thus far during this unprecedented time?
Yeah, I think your questions kind of went through all the points that I wanted to hit, which is great. Excuse me. I think one word I like to sit on is compassion. And that just is any situation, not just right now, but, not bashing people for posting their homemade pasta or posting their Zoom call, whatever it is. People are trying to do the best they can and express themselves how they want to put themselves out there, and we shouldn't be the ones to judge. I think I already said the ways that we can help, but if you do have that extra spending power, we are lucky enough to be young and professionals, meaning we have spending power and we have jobs. So I think that's a really great combination on how we personally can help give back to the community in various ways. And then I think the last piece that I always say is ramp up your resume. I mean, doesn't matter what field you're in, don't forget your value. It's a good time right now to look at your skills, how you've contributed. And again, also your financial status. Can you buy a home? Are you going to buy a home? Are you saving enough and preparing yourself to put yourself in a good situation 5 years down the line?
I think that's great. I also think you really touched on a lot this morning in a very short period of time. So you obviously did your homework, but you're obviously living out all of these points that you've made today. So just as your friend, I'm really proud of you. It sounds like you really have got a lot going on, really a lot of good things going on. And that's hard for most people your age to say. So congrats to you, kudos to you. And I think it's a great point to end the interview on. So thank you so much, Kayling, for your time today. Really appreciate it. I think you have a lot of value to bring to all young professionals, and I'm excited to see where you go next.
Thanks, Camber. I appreciate everything you're doing as well. And I can't wait to see what the other video interviews are like.
Absolutely.